So let's start off with, you were born in Liverpool, correct?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I mean, growing up in Liverpool, presumably, um, good Lord, that was a very long time ago, wasn't it? So what was Liverpool like at that point?
Well, I was born in 1938, so I was
Right.
brought up in Liverpool. Like Delia, I was a baby of the Blitz.
Right. And were your parent was it a middle class household or working class?
Just what sort of upper working class. My
Right.
father, I was away in the war at the time, was in the Air Force. But when he came out, he worked for the fruit importing industry in Liverpool.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Well, there's money in them though hills,
Yeah.
obviously. And so, what inspired you to get involved in music? Were you a trained musician from the outset?
I never have considered myself to be a musician. When I was 11, my father gave me the choice of having elocution lessons uh, or learning the piano. I didn't fancy particularly learning the piano. I went for elocution lessons in Liverpool with an amazing character called Mrs. Harold Ackerley, who, amongst her other pupils, had Rita Tushingham and people like that.
Wow.
And so I got into acting. I'd always been sort of a bit of a mimic. Uh, the radio. Sorry if my kid beeps all the
It's all part of the colour, don't worry, local colour.
time. Yeah, I was brought up sort of with the radio and Saturday night theatre, Tommy Handley, um, music hall, workers' playtime. Uh, and so I really got into acting in quite a big way. I did a lot of school plays and things. And I did all the external exams for the London Academy of Music and
Right.
Dramatic Art, and still up to associate level. Uh, and then when I finished grammar school and my A levels, I my father rather hoped I was going to go into business, the same sort of business as him. Uh, but I'm afraid I uh, wrote off to Southport Repertory Company and became a student and did an
Oh,
ASM there, uh, where I stayed up to my national service in the Air Force.
wow. And so, what age were you at that point?
Uh, at at which point, when I
At
came
the
up
at the national service point.
national service, so I was just over 18, came out.
Right.
I was just
And
really,
and so when did you start in the world of sound design? I mean, it seems like quite a leap. Did you have tape recorders and were you messing around with stuff?
I had a tape recorder at home. My father bought a tape recorder. And I wasn't at that. I was quite interested in sound in the theatre, as an essay play and stuff. Went in the Air Force to do air wireless, um, and ended up working with submarine detection, underwater
Wow.
submarine detection. So I was in the radiosonic part of Ballykelly in Northern Ireland,
Wow.
uh, doing working on sonobuoys, which you dropped in the water from aeroplanes, and they told you roughly where the submarine was.
How amazing. And that must have had a kind of creative impact on you as well, because all that stuff is, I mean, what I'm trying to get to, I suppose, is where did your passion for, because I've been obviously doing looking at your history, and clearly you are engaged. You've always been interested in kind of future facing stuff, and
Yeah,
I suppose that comes from your technical background with the RAF thing.
yeah. Well, the RAF thing sort of gave me a grounding in actually uh, the technical side of things.
Right.
Although, as a kid at grammar school, I had actually produced a radio play which went on hospital radio.
Wow.
All day.
Does that still exist? Do you have a recording of that?
I do actually. It's on an acetate.
Is it?
Yeah.
You should digitize it and put it on Spotify or something.
Well, I don't know that I could. I'd know how to do that. No, I mean my technical background's all gone. I'll give it to Mark. And get
Yeah,
Mark.
tell Mark that he's got to do that because
Yeah,
he could do. He's good at that sort of stuff.
yeah.
But wow. So we are fast
I'm in
forwarding. Sorry, carry on. So we're now in your kind of early 20s. Is that right? I
Yeah.
suppose.
Uh,
And moving on from the kind of theatrical stuff,
yeah.
where did you meet, and when did you meet the other people involved in the radiophonic workshop?
Well, it's a bit of a longer story than that because
Okay.
while I was in the Air Force, on radio, I heard the first broadcasts of Private Dreams and Public Nightmares,
Right.
which immediately sort of stimulated an interest. And I thought I'd love one day to work at a place like that.
Ah, so that was your epiphanal moment then.
Yeah. So when I came out of the Air Force, I went back into the theatre and went off on a tour of in the 50s and 60s. There was sort of an appetite for sex plays. It was the nearest, I suppose, that generation ever got to internet pornography. So I went off on this tour, and went off on the tour. We toured. It was about the 25th tour, so we were playing all the grotty places, the Star in Scunthorpe and places like that.
Rough.
And we got up to, I had my 21st birthday on the stage at the Hippodrome, Middlesbrough. And the next morning, the guy who was running the tour admitted he'd not paid anybody's national insurance for the 12 weeks. And that we'd got one date at another place, and then we all really basically were sacked. So the guy who was the stage director of the touring company walked out, and we were left to open in this other theatre. I forget which theatre it was. And so I'd been a stage manager, as an assistant stage manager, and I knew how to get a show into the theatre, set it up and everything. So I volunteered to do that. And then I went home. Got a job at Liverpool Playhouse with Willard Staker, and for a production of the Scottish play. I had a starring part. I think 1.5 lines. And, it was great fun because Rita Tarshingham was the assistant stage manager.
Wow.
And the bloody child was a little fat boy called Billy Kendrick, who now owns Liverpool Everton Football Club.
Is that right?
And the call was always Billy and the Eight Kings, and there were never enough of us to make 8, so we all had to rush quickly around. And then while I was there, I got a phone call from a theatre in Swansea saying that David Kirk, who'd been the manager of the tour I'd done on the sex play, had recommended me for the job of stage director for the following season. So I went off down to Swansea as stage director at the Grand Theatre. Did a season there. While I was there, I noticed a little thing. I'd done at radio as a kid, by the way.
Oh, right. Okay.
Noted BBC advertising for studio managers. So I wrote off and thought nothing more of it. Anyway, at the end of the season, they said, will you come back again next year? And I said, yeah. Then went back up to Liverpool, thought I'd need to work until the next season in Swansea. So became stage manager and joint dues lead at the Hifto in Bolton.
Right.
Tourist the Grand, I think, in Bolton.
Yeah.
And while I was there, I kept getting letters from BBC asking me to go for interviews. And so I was booked an interview first thing in the morning and went down on the milk train.
Ah, the milk train. Yeah, I remember that.
And would arrive in London, go off to the interview, and then get back in time for the matinee at Bolton. And that went on for a couple of months. I think there were 40 jobs, and they'd had over 400 applicants for them. So I was pretty sort of unconvinced I would get a job. I then was asked to go for a board. So again, milk train. Went into this place and was directed to a small room in the bottom of, I think it was Egton House, I'm not quite sure. And this room had a large loudspeaker, a naked light bulb was painted bright red. Wow. And I was told to sit there and I'd be told what to do. And a voice boomed out from the speaker behind me, deliberately turned up too loud. And with the light bulb sort of just in that thing, your eye, when really put off, and told to read scripts. So I picked up scripts, started reading it, and got mic fright.
Right.
And I thought, anyway, I did the usual, I'm sorry, I'll read that again bit. Went on. Then I was told, fine, if you wait for a moment, you'll be brought upstairs. So I went upstairs, and all these gentlemen in ties and suits. So remember, it was, what, 60s, end of the 50s, beginning of the 60s. And there were 6 of them. And they all looked rather forbidding. Anyway, they started chatting, and I was asked about my background, what I've been doing, why I wanted to join the BBC. And there was one guy I thought was really gunning for me. He was the baddie on the board. Anyway, I sort of did the interview, got back on the train, rang my father and said, I think you're going to have to face it. I'm not going to get a job at the BBC. And the following Monday, I got a telegram saying that I'd been accepted, and as there was a vacancy in a week's time on the training course, could I be available at that point? So I got permission from the theatre. I rang up Swansea, got permission to not fulfill the contract for the next year, and I went to join the BBC.
How amazing!
It was a good stage. So I came off stage on the Saturday night and joined the BBC on the Monday morning.
And what was the official? I mean, you were being trained, but trained as what at the BBC?
I was being trained as a studio manager, a radio studio manager.
Oh, I see. Right. Okay. And was that a creative role or an administrative role?
No, it was you were in the studio and you started off making noises.
Oh, right.
And playing gramophone records and creating sound backgrounds. Because I very soon became a specialist studio manager in the drama, radio drama.
Right.
From the theatre background. So that, and that was an amazing, because it was the end of the greats.
Yes.
In radio drama. My first show I did was as a very junior member of the crew on Val Kilgour's production of the Forsyte saga.
Right.
And
Right.
that sort of
What year would that be, roughly?
roughly, I think it was 61, be about 61. Yeah. Carlton Hobbs and
Right. Right.
all of those sort of wonderful old actors
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and Val Kilgour. And of course, it was live.
Wow.
Um,
So were you
because,
doing Foley and all that kind of stuff?
yeah, I was spot effects, it's called.
Oh, right. Okay.
And it was great because Val always referred to you if you're not part of his regular team. Val Kilgour would refer to as your function. So I would be addressed as Spot. And it was months before I was on another show with him. And by then I'd done a few others. But about 3 months later, he referred to me by my Christian name. And at that moment, you knew you were part of the accepted team in Trinity Club.
Wow.
And then he would offer you one of his cigarettes, which are hand rolled in Burlington Arcade.
Happy days. So we're nearly up to the point of the Radiophonic Workshop, I suppose. Now, is that right?
Well, that's sort of at the BBC in those days. After you'd been there for 2 years, you were sent off to the engineering training school, and you were instructed in the fine arts of magnetic recording and hysteresis, all sort of things you never ever needed to know or would ever want to know again. And at that point, I produced. There was, a course production, and we produced a send up of the training school. Actually, there was a witchcraft museum in Evesham, and the Evesham Training School was run by a rather very fine engineer called Dr. Sturley, who was also a Scottish Presbyterian and would not have Sunday's newspapers sent up at school or permit alcohol on the premises. So you had to go down to Evesham. So we got to know the local area, and we decided we'd do a short feature on a fictional witchcraft training school run by the Reverend Father Witchart, which was always abbreviated to Our Father Witchart. Anyway, we had a lot of fun doing that. All models and made loads of funny noises, and it was so contentious that they hid the tape from so he never heard it.
The work of the devil.
Yeah, well, there was one awful moment on the playback to the instructors when at the appearance of the devil, there was something up the devil. At the appearance, an enormous plate glass window at the back of the classroom flew open.
Wow.
Anyway, when you get back to BBC, you're then sent off on a tour of different departments, see what else is going on. So, and I went, as part of the tour, went to the Radiophonic Workshop. Madalena Fagandini had just done Time Beat with George Martin, and Desmond had been invited to do a presentation at the radio show. So, and he knew a bit of my background. Literally, you get a sort of biography of all the people who are coming. And he said he wanted to practice his presentation to our group. And because I'd been there, he said, "Will you introduce me?" So I introduced him to the group, and then later on applied to go on attachment to Radiophonic Workshop. Now, in those days, if you went to Radiophonic Workshop, you were only allowed to go for 3 months.
Right.
Because a friend of one of the senior engineers in the BBC said exposing people to those sort of strange sounds would cause severe mental illness.
That explains quite a lot in my case, I think.
Yeah. So I went off on a 3-month attachment, and Delia Darbush had just gone, I think, 3 months previous to me. She was still there. Madalena Fagandini was still there. And then John Baker, I think, joined 3 months after me. By then, it had been decided 3 months wasn't long enough. And by the time you learned to use all the primitive equipment we had, you were just beginning to get into it, and they thought, it's all wasted. So we were allowed to stay longer. I stayed another, I think it was 9 years. Leah, another 10 years, and John, about 13 years or so.
Can you tell us about the inverted commas primitive equipment that there was in the studio?
Yeah, well, it had been founded with £2,000 in a room in Maidavale, room 13.
I've been there, yeah.
Yeah, and the key to redundant plant. Now, redundant plant was like the elephant's graveyard. Stuff was sent there when it was so worn out, it was allowed to crumble. And they had a very good engineer called Dickie Bird, who was given the key to this place. So anything he could get to work, he thought might be useful, he did. We had ferrographs.
Right.
There was a BTR2, an EMI, that was the standard BBC recording machine. But recording machines in those days tended to be in recording channels, and you were plugged up to them. So the workshop had its own, a BTR2. There was a TR90, which was an EMI replacement for BTR2, which was a portable. And they were just beginning to appear in studios, although a lot of the original radiophonic work had to be put onto acetate to be played on gramophones.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And I'd been very lucky because I'd been working with Madalena Fagandini while I was still in drum diploma before I went to the workshop. Michael Bakewell's Cocktails Orphe, and also on a great play produced by Freddie Fortyne, Adimoff's Living Time, and Madeleine had done some wonderful things. I think she was one of the great unsung heroes.
Right. To be honest, I'm not familiar with her, so
her work was just stunning.
Right.
Always good. Right. So I've arrived at the workshop. The equipment. Ferrographs. There was a reflectograph, which was a speed change machine. And that only worked from 3 3/4, 7.5.
Right.
You change speed by turning a sort of rotary handle, which was connected with string up to a cone under the capstan. And so, what else do we have? Oh, we had most of the money had been spent on a third octave filter by Alba's work, but they'd only had enough money to buy half of it. So,
right. So, but just to interrupt for a sec, the main creative tool at that time was tape manipulation. Is that correct?
Absolutely. We had also 2 banks of oscillators, which were sort of home built. And a Muirhead frequency generator, which was our sort of tuning standard.
Right.
And also a wobulator.
A what?
A wobulator. This was a frequency modulated oscillator that would go from 0 to infinity.
So you could essentially pick a frequency and play different notes, then record the notes and stitch them together and that sort of stuff.
Yes. There was a primitive keyboard, but it only turned stuff on and off. And I think you could alter the decay, but you couldn't alter the attack. And there was only 8. No, it was only 12 notes.
Right.
And again, made on site.
Oh my God, amazing.
There was a a piano, which was the iron frame of an upright piano, which had been bought for 10 shillings from a Sunday school who had thrown it out. And so that was all stripped. Then they saw the older pieces. There was Desmond's drum kit, which he bought from, I think, Derek Geiler, and was stacked in the corner. There was an old collapsed copper cylinder, hot water cylinder.
Oh my God.
Various little bits of a melodica, I think, the sort of zither thing, or auto harp, a couple of strange instruments like a midwiz, which is an Arabic flute thing, and one of those African pianos made of stone.
Yeah.
And anything, the odd coconut shell, anything you could make a noise with, basically. And that was it.
Wow. So
an echo machine, a wonderful echo machine.
Wow.
That ended up mainly being used as because it had a magnetic drum which slid out on a drawer, and it tended to be used for sliding doors in spaceships.
Right.
This was a revolving disc designed by the BBC with magnetic heads all around it, and as a reverberation machine.
Wow.
Now, the trouble was, while it worked very well, the friction between the magnetic heads and the thing meant it crackled. So if you wanted to use it, you had to turn it on the day before and leave it a note saying, "Don't turn this off tonight." If you're very lucky, it would last for about as long as the take you wanted to do. So that really fell out of favor pretty quickly. And as I said, became this sliding drawer because of the weight of it. Was used for spaceship coming in.
Amazing stuff. And when did Peter Zinoviev join?
Well, Peter Zinoviev never joined the workshop. What
he
happened?
Didn't?
No. What happened was he'd been at a dinner party, they'd hosted a dinner party in Eaton Square where he lived. And he'd been doing sort of electronics and creating studio, and he was interested in computers, things like that. One of the first people in the country to own a computer. And he came to see Delia one day. No, she had been invited to that dinner party, and she invited him to come and have a look at the workshop.
Right.
And he came to have a look, and eventually he asked Delia if she'd like to go and do some things in his studio in Putney. And then I was invited, and that's when we formed Unit Delta Plus as a separate thing from the workshop. Desmond was very keen for us to be interested in stuff going on outside. I was still doing bits and pieces for theatre in the West End and things like that. So we formed Unit Delta Plus and did one of the first electronic music concerts.
Wow. Oh, yes. Carnival of Light, the Beatles.
No, nothing.
No, Million Volt Light and Sound Rave. Is that it?
No. This was a concert we did at the Watermill Theatre in Newbury.
Right.
Which was just us. Signals Gallery had just opened, so we had Magnetic Sculpture by Paul Bakis, who was the boyfriend of Xenakis, I think.
Really?
The theatre was all whitewashed and was covered with Sofia Zinoviev. She was then about 6 or something. Her childhood paintings, which looked wonderful against the thing. We had this swinging magnetic sculpture in the front, and Hornsey College of Art provided light show, and they were also in the primitive stage where you had to turn everything on half an hour to an hour before to get the right viscosity in the oils and things. So that was probably the first electronic music concert.
Good Lord. And what year would that have been then, roughly?
Okay, I'm sorry, we could look that up
Oh, right.
actually.
No, I don't. It's all right. It's not a test. I'm just
No,
curious. Is that late 60s?
I would say probably mid-60s. So
Yeah.
it was around the same time as the Signals Gallery opened in London to
Right.
specialise in modern art and things. Uh, and that was quite fun to do.
I bet.
But it was fun. And unlike most electronic music concerts in those days, the equipment didn't break down. And it was always the feature in those
Yeah.
days. You would go to a concert and most of the time be sent repairing the equipment or getting it.
That's right. I can relate to that.
Delia and John and I would go to if there was an electronic music concert, we'd go to it because we felt we needed to keep abreast of what was going on. But because we only really had 2 rooms, you had to be prepared to work through the night or whatever, whenever there was a room available for to do the show you've been given. Because there was Delia, John, I. There were the 3 of us at that point. So John tended to work during the day, and Delia and I would be at night or afternoons and things.
Amazing, isn't it? There is such. Right. So I'm a big believer in limitations are a great incentive for creativity.
Yeah.
And so one of the things when I would talk to various people in the Radiophonic Workshop over the years, and the main thing is how you often got very little notice about what you needed to create. Is that correct? Like you maybe get less than a week's notice to create something, or
yes. Later on, it became rather longer, but
right.
Yes, you suddenly get this thing. Vera Gray wants a rocket ship takeoff.
Right.
Things like that.
Did you build up a kind of library of sounds?
Yeah, we did. Quite a lot of stuff was reissued, or we thought could be reissued, but that very soon proved to be impossible because you were working to a specific brief, and you'd never get the same sort of brief. Like you could use a rocket ship time and time again, but it was still the same rocket ship.
Yeah. Well, it didn't worry the people on Star Trek, didn't it? I mean, they used the same effects week in years and years and years. But so yeah, sorry.
Has been used is still being used.
Yeah, no, that's true actually. So okay, so moving on. So I'm still curious about this million-volt light and sound rave.
That was after we had a concert at the Royal College of Music or the Royal Academy, I can't remember which turned out to be a sort of fiasco because Peters and Oviev had plotted it as a happening, but didn't tell Delia and I that it was.
All right.
That night we broke up as the unit Delta Plus.
Oh, that's sad.
And then after that, we did a lecture at Morley College, Delia and I, Peters and Oviev. And at the end of it, this sort of demented hippie ran up to the platform and introduced him. It was David Vorhaus.
Yeah, he's still a demented hippie, by the way.
It's nice. I think. Have you seen Caroline Katz's film?
I don't know if I have. I don't know.
On Arena.
And yes. Brilliant. Yes.
Yeah, and I think I describe him as that. And anyway, David came and he and Delia fell madly in love for a short period, and we decided to set up Electrafon in Camden Town.
Brilliant.
Which is the studio that we did Electric Storm in.
Please, I just need to interrupt you there because I just want to tell you that Electric Storm is one of my top 5 albums of all time. It's that in terms of inspiration for what
Yeah.
we did with the Human League and all the stuff I've done in my career. I still listen to that album on a regular basis. I just think it's a work of genius, honestly.
Well, I would say it was really mostly Delia and David. Uh, I provided, I found the lyricist, John MacDonald, who wrote the most amazing stuff. I did the voice of the biker and the
Oh
motor.
yeah, yeah. The Visitation, is it? Yeah.
Yeah, and all the odd voices on Here Come the Fleas. Uh,
That is a very strange track indeed, I have to say.
yes. It is interesting because years later, I was, my partner Richard was in film wardrobe and was working with Ken Russell.
Right.
And Ken was asked to do a ballet for Ballet Rombert,
Right.
which is having 3 parts.
Right.
One was a Mozart flute and harp concerto. The second was, I think it was Here Come the Fleas.
I can't imagine dancing to that.
And the third was going to be a sort of woodland based thing, because I'd just done a ballet with London Contemporary Dance
Right.
called Feet from before Robert Cohen. So no, I was about to do it. That's right, because the piece I started for Ken ended up as a ballet called Field for Robert Cohen at London Contemporary Dance.
You're an early example of someone with a, which I'm always telling my students. I teach an MA course in songwriting and production, saying, look, the new thing is you've got to have a portfolio career. And it sounds like you've always had a portfolio career. It's like you've always had many strands to your creativity.
Yeah, when I was doing the ballets, there was one point when one of the senior ballet critics was quite rude. About one of them, and says it's so-called music. Unfortunately, I knew another of the very senior ballet critics, and I said, yeah, fine, that's what I think. I have never claimed to be a composer. I am an actor in a theatre of sound.
I love that.
That is what I always considered myself to be, an actor in a theatre of sound.
I love that. I'm going to use that. In fact, that's.
Okay. I've got loads of questions to ask you after the,
You're a soundscapist as well.
Yeah.
You manipulate emotions using your skills as well.
Sure. I mean, as Dear and I had this great thing about you play a sound from someone's life.
Yes.
That will immediately create the memories. And she and I were brought up on sirens, bombs. Delia also remembers the clogs from the mill workers on the cobbled streets of Preston and things like that.
Amazing.
Amazing time shifts.
Well,
time travel.
Yeah, I can relate to that growing up in Sheffield because I grew up in an environment where I would hear steel being ground all the time and the sound of the drop forges, the infrasound you get from that. And that I didn't realize till later how much that influenced my work,
Yeah.
But so that's that anyway. So when did you start working on Doctor Who?
1963, Desmond said, well, we've been asked. Do you want the background to this?
Yeah, go on.
Well, somebody, I think, oh Christ, I'm having a time slip.
We're talking about time slips.
Verity went up to Sydney, Newman, and said, we'd like to do a science fiction thing. And
That's Verity Lambert, right?
Verity Lambert, yeah. And a lot of people say, oh, it's far too expensive, all these spaceships and things. And Sidney Newman said, no, fuck that. Why don't you just do something stupid like a telephone box? And then because it wouldn't cost a lot of money. Anyway,
that's brilliant.
So she then wanted to do a Ron Grainer signature tune.
Yeah.
Now, Ron had just announced he was not going to do any more signature tunes. So I think Lionel Harris was head of music television at the time. He said to her, oh, she wanted to use Structure Sonore. You knew who Structure Sonore were, Leslie Bachet people. And they proved to be rather expensive.
Right.
And well out of Verity's budget rate. So Lionel Harris said, why don't you go see Desmond at the Radiophonic Workshop? So she and Warris came up to the workshop and said, what we really want is a signature tune by Ron Grainer, as if it was played by the Structure Sonore. But she said Structure Sonore too expensive, and Ron Grainer said he won't do any more sig tunes. Now, Ron was a fan of the workshop, and I think Desmond had done Mouse on the Moon, stuff for that, a film with Ron. So he said, well, Ron has always said he'd love to do a collaboration with us. Would you mind if I ring him now and see whether he'd do it? So Desmond picks up the phone, rings Ron. Ron said, I'd love to do it with the workshop.
Great.
So next thing is Ron appeared with Verity, and he'd just been at recording sessions, so he had a sheet of manuscript paper with him, and so ripped a thing off and jotted down 16 bars. And so this is the sort of thing that I'm trying to do. I mean, he wrote things like wind bubbles and things like that on clouds.
Yeah.
It was being, Bernard Lodge had done some experimental videos using video feedback for the first time.
All right.
And they had cut together a thing which originally was going to be used every time the TARDIS took off. And that idea was abandoned because it was too cumbersome. But so the TARDIS itself is actually all cut to that video.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
But some of that feedback stuff is used in the title sequence, isn't it, as well?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And was the original title
Yeah,
sequence.
the original title sequence.
Yeah. So Delia started work with Dick in room 12, and I started work on all the effects in room 13. So it was all very secret and hush hush, and
Really?
knew what Delia and Dick were up to.
I have to tell our listeners that you are responsible for the sound of the TARDIS takeoff, which is a legendary piece of sound design as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, and landing. But
And landing.
And the thing is, we did the TARDIS takeoff, and at that point we not even thought it might land. So there was a very hasty sort of thing where we literally turned it back to front.
Yeah.
Reversed the thumb. So Delia did the sig tune. And they came and they were duly impressed. Ron said, "Geez, Dilly, did all right there?" I said, "Well, most of it, Ron." But you had to do bits to join together. They were less enthusiastic about the TARDIS because trying to get an idea of what to do, I thought, well, where does the time machine go? It's not right, it doesn't go up, doesn't go sideways, but like time, it comes and goes. So the concept of pre-feedback and post-feedback.
Yes.
Because the graphics were there, we had the swooshy clouds and things like that. But I deliberately, on point of principle, you know, when you're 22, you think you know the fucking world. It's not going to have a rising note in it. And on principle, I'm not putting a rising note on it. So there was a sort of curious silence when I played it without this. And then somebody said, "I think it ought to have a rising note." So literally, we nipped it next door, put it through the feedback and with the wobulator rising note, and so the choice was one. Everyone was happy with that, and seemed to remain to be happy even now. Well, I hope Russell keeps it, because when Doctor Who was finished, by then I'd left the BBC. I'd gone to Electrafon, and in I think 77, the BBC wrote to me and said, "We're going to put this on a gramophone, the TARDIS on the gramophone record. This is so you can register any compositional interest you may have." And I just thought it was an effect, you know.
Right.
I'd not declared it as a piece of music. And I was then working with John Lewis, late John Lewis, and he said, no, that's, you know, it's a compositional piece.
It is.
And I then wrote to the PRS, and they said, well, let us have a score or a tape or whatever. We started to do a score, which John and another composer friend of his were great at doing. That was magnificent, all on A3. And it looked really complicated. But by then I'd sent the tape in, and so said, yeah, no, that's a piece of electronic music. Yes, you're entitled. So they registered it. And Doctor Who was not on here, so I'd get forms from if it was used on the Graham Norton show or something like that. And, so when Doctor Who came back, Mark had by then was I forget why Mark had got involved in 77, but
yeah, I think so, yeah.
He was involved. And sorry, I've gone on a sidetrack there, and I don't know where I'm going with this.
Don't worry. I shall ask you another question if you like, because there's lots that we have to get through. So you started a studios called the Electrafon Studios, correct?
Yeah.
With Delia, Derbyshire, and
yeah. I mean, our first job was a film called Legend of Hell House.
Right.
Delia was supposed to leave at the same time as I did, but didn't.
Right.
So I took out my pencil from the BBC and equipped the studio. We were being slightly backed by EMS, who were making the VCS3 synthesizer.
Oh, God bless the VCS3. What a great machine.
And we had 3 VCS3s.
Wow.
One of the big
Synthi
expert from the Synthi 100 thing, and a Synthi 100 sequencer.
Right.
And that's how we started in Revoxes.
Right.
The old day 77s.
Yeah, we had one of those. Yeah, they were great. Yes.
Yeah. And so Delia at that time was going out with a very peculiar bloke. he rather difficult. We called him the Black Dwarf. Because he was very small and Delia was very tall. And if he appeared in a room with Delia, you could palpably feel every ounce of creativity drained from the room. So it was like a black hole. And that was, the black part was the black hole, sucking out the creativity. And the Black Dwarf, because they were talking about red dwarfs as well. And so she was really not much use, I'm afraid. She was not in the mood to work. She would just stand around taking her snuff. And so I'm afraid most of it sort of devolved on me.
Right.
And she would come out to have supper with the producers or
I see. Yeah.
That was as far as her contribution went to it. It was an unhappy part of my time because I'd spent over that period in France, picked up a social disease. So halfway through the dubs, the penicillin kicked in, and I didn't realize that time I was allergic to it. So I was there, and my wrist started to scratch at the dub. I suddenly realized that the flesh had closed over my watch.
Oh, you're joking.
So I got out the dub, got a cab up to St. Mary's Hospital, and I said, I just started this course of penicillin. And they didn't want to look at me, put me flat in the trolley and kept me there for most of the evening. So I pumped me full of Pyritol and my heartbeat got back to normal.
Oh my God.
So that was an unhappy part of it. And also I'm not feeling that I was sort of being abandoned by Delia. That didn't help.
Oh dear. Well, another thing that you did was you did some experiments with performances with synths and a 16-piece orchestra. Is that right?
No, we did Dudley and I did an album.
Oh, it was an album. I thought it was a performance.
No.
Oh, right. But, I've always been fascinated with
in the Covent Garden. It was a sort of shit. As 84, you suddenly get gaps.
No. I get that now. Now I'm 65.
Walter Collins. It was sort of Walter Collins monkey, really. Right. It wasn't really very good.
Wasn't it? Oh.
Well, it was called In the Covent Garden.
All right. But I mean, I've always been fascinated with this magic that happens when you combine synthesis with an orchestra. We've done it a few times, and I just love it because if you get it just right, you can't tell what the difference is between the weird sounds that the orchestra can make and the synthesis, and it all blends into this beautiful kind of admixture. I love that. Yeah.
I wouldn't say that In Covent Garden was particularly wonderful.
Oh, okay. I think you're probably too modest, but I'm going to listen to it and I'll tell you. Is it available?
I think so. I mean, if I think I've still got a copy here somewhere.
All right. Okay. So we're actually amazingly getting towards the end of this. I can't believe it. It feels like we've only just scratched the surface. But are there any other things that you did around about that time that you're particularly proud of, would you say?
Well, really, while I was still at the BBC before I left the BBC, I did quite a few things with Patrick Garland. I also did the John Aubrey Brief Lives for the theatre with him.
Right.
Originally for television, and then also I did some of the things he did with the Beckett pieces, beginning to end, and things like
Oh,
that,
brilliant.
with Jackie McGowan.
Right, right.
I was very proud of that. I was quite proud of Machine Stops I did with Philip Saville, that won the film festival.
Oh, wow.
And I was quite pleased. The other thing I was pleased working with Philip was Rainbirds, which is in the archive somewhere. Things like that. I did a few Horizons with Jack Bond.
Right, yes, yes.
And I did a ballet piece with Margaret Dale. I was asked to provide her with, I think it was 20 minutes of silence. I've lost that. I can't find a copy anywhere. But I was very crappy about keeping copies.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Electrafon
You
stuff.
need, we all need to document our
Yeah,
stuff because, I mean, if you're anything like me, it's like you get asked to do things and you're in such a rush to do them, and then you do them, and then you don't take enough care to document them
yeah,
properly.
or even get do proper copies and things like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Um, and I was also quite pleased with some of the mechanical ballets I did with Peter Logan, the mechanical ballet sculptor. One of his pieces is being revised for the Tate Modern. We're
Really?
in, yeah, we're in negotiation. What in negotiation? We're in preparation for it.
Oh my goodness, when is that going to be?
Uh, Sometime this year or early next year.
Oh, wow.
And they bought it ages ago. It's been sort of in the basement ever since.
Right.
And that's going to have its original score with it.
How tremendous. You must be so pleased with that.
Well, I'm really chuffed because, I mean, I loved his work. And so when I first saw Square Dance, it blew my mind. And it was originally that he did it for a building exhibition for Brian Montgomery, who was a great sort of arts fan and commissioned lots of stuff. And so that was really, you know, I still love it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I've done quite a few things with ballet. I was lucky enough to do something with the Royal Ballet, and I think working with dance is just the most
Yeah.
fulfilling thing, don't you think?
I did 4 ballets with Christopher Bruce for Rambert.
Wow.
One with Peter Logan for sculpture and dance, for the London Contemporary Dance. And then I did Forest, the Bob Cohan. And then when Christopher Bruce was asked to do a ballet for the Royal Opera, she was called Unfamiliar Playground, which I worked on with Tony Hymas.
How lovely.
And I think it was funny because, you know, the ballet companies pay tuppence for every performance.
Yeah.
I was asked, you know, what fee we would be charging and what arrangements of the contract. So I rang up PRS and they said, that's grand rights. It's between you and the company.
Right.
We went to a meeting with their sort of financial director who said, well, we were thinking of maybe 2. And I thought, well, you know, I think Ballet Rambert were paying, you know, 30 quid a performance or something.
Yeah.
And we said, oh, well, you know, but Rambert gave us 3. Oh dear. What I didn't realize was he was talking about a percentage of the audience.
Oh, wow.
So we agreed 2.5, but we didn't realize how much money it was only ever done about 3 times, you know, but it made a difference. And of course, the Bob Cohan piece, when Richard and I just bought a house in Clapton, in the East End, and we were doing. It was a wreck.
Right.
It's where Paloma Faith lives now.
Oh, is that right? Wow.
Yeah, she bought it a couple of years ago. And we were literally, if he was on a film, it was great because he got loads of money. And when we bought the house, had not yet gone back to the BBC.
Right.
I was about to go back, and
They couldn't live without you.
well, there's a story there, which I might tell you in a minute.
Yeah, tell me, please.
Are we desperately? Do we have to stop after an hour?
No, we can carry on. I've got time if you have.
Oh, yeah, I have. Well, so where were we? Yeah, the ballet Forest was going to be done on television, and they did the same sort of thing. Bob Lockyer was the producer, and he said, well, it's normally £35. And I said, oh, yeah, it does sound a lot. And he said, that's per minute. It's a 40-minute ballet. And he said, and then, of course, the synchronization rights.
Great.
And that's 35 a minute. And that paid for the plumbing of the house.
Wow.
Anyway, no, going back to the BBC, Desmond had wanted to, just before I left, wanted to start making programs, radio programs. And he thought they would want an assistant, an organizer to run the workshop while he was making his programs. And at that point, I decided, if I'm going to stay at the BBC, I'm going to end up, and I was then 31, 32, I'm going to end up as an old, resentful guy with pens in his Lovat grey jacket, cursing the day he never, by then an alcoholic, and cursing the day when he could, So I left, and I literally was, I tend to make all I did in those things, dramatic changes. So I had my hair cut very short and stopped on this 60s thing, and just wore jeans and t-shirts, and so that's how I'd started Electron. Anyway, at Electrafon, I did ballets. They did Legend of Hell House in a Covent Garden.
Yeah. John
Lewis joined me. We did New Atlantis and Where Are We, Captain? And other bits of sort of film and theatre.
Was it paying its way?
Well, it probably was, but unfortunately, when John Lewis joined, he joined with this accountant who took charge of our business affairs, and eventually we found had ripped us off tens of thousands of pounds.
No.
And he got away with it because apparently when he was cautioned, the policeman didn't use the correct form of words. And our lawyer, the police, I mean, he was arrested by the police. Our barrister was called away 2 days before the trial to do a more important court case. And so they had this barrister who never been properly briefed.
Oh, no.
And so, anyway, that was...
It happens, right?
It was just about would have paid its way. I mean, at times I would take out £10 at the end of the week if there was any money in the bank. By then, of course, I'd met Richard, and he was earning film.
Right.
Money. But even then, we would go through times when film industry was not doing well. There was one period it was out of work for 7 months.
Right.
And we literally lived on about 3 or 30 quid a week if we could ground it. And we managed to feed 2 dogs, an elderly Cockney Queen housekeeper, or Teddy, who was a wonderful character. We survived, and we used to buy £3 of meat on a Saturday, make a big stew with dumplings. And then as the week went on, you make more dumplings till at the end of the week, you were having bowls of gravy with dumplings. Yeah.
Wow. So you were going to tell me a story about you rejoining the BBC.
Oh, yeah. Anyway, Desmond had decided he wanted an organizer, and at my annual interview that year, they offered me the job, and I said, I'm very flattered, but I want to resign to start my own thing, to go do Electron.
Yeah.
So we kept in touch vaguely over the year. Then about 1979, Paddy, who sends his regards, by the way.
Oh yeah, Paddy. I love Paddy.
Which I did do last night, in fact. Paddy came down and said, can I come down and have lunch? So he came down and had lunch at the studio and said, would you ever consider returning to the workshop? And I said, if I did, it would be on my terms. And so I thought no more of it. And then there was another visit from Paddy, who said, they are going to appoint an organizer. Would you like to apply for it? We're going to invite Delia, who didn't want to know. And I thought, if I was to go back to the workshop, I was not prepared to go back to a pile of junk.
Right.
And I know they really had hardly bought anything new.
Right.
So I'd left. So I thought, well, all right. I chatted to Richard about it, and he said, yeah, well, why not? And I thought, well, we could do with the money.
Yeah.
And so it was a sort of, well, if I get it, fine. If I don't get it, I don't give a fuck, really. So I sort of swanned in.
They're the jobs you always get, though, right? The ones where you don't really care if you get it or not. Yeah.
I swanned in and was eventually given the job. And I said, well, that's fine, but I'm afraid I can't do it for another 4 months because I wanted to teach John how to run the studio by himself.
Right.
So I'll join you nearer December. And also, I want a free hand to start modernizing the place. By then at Electrafon, I'd commissioned Ken Gale, who was the EMS designer, and we produced a polyphonic keyboard.
Wow. Yeah.
And a control voltage recorder, because it's all pre-MIDI, so a control voltage recorder where we could record 16 tracks on a 1/4-inch tape.
Fantastic.
And we'd also had some new oscillators where we had voltage control of the waveform, new filters which are high pass, low pass, band reject. And I thought, really, we could use some of those things. So I sort of said, well, that's that. They said, yeah, okay, fine. Which was fine by everybody else, except Malcolm Clark felt he should have got the job.
Oh, right. Okay.
He acted as this deputy in the past. But as Paddy suggested to me, that if Malcolm was given the job, everybody else would resign. So that meant, I mean, when I went back, Malcolm went into a terminal sulk for a month and didn't appear until I had to write him a letter saying that you are still employed by BBC. Unless you turn up next Monday, we will have to reconsider your employment. Anyway,
Turned up, yeah.
I mean, we were not the bitterest of enemies, but I mean, we'd never say we were the closest friends either.
No.
Even though I recognise his contribution to the workshop very much. Malcolm had the great talent that he could be absolutely fabulous or absolutely awful in the same piece.
Right.
Anyway, that was my return to the workshop.
So the pieces that you were capable of producing at that point were of an advanced nature then, presumably, because you got all this new equipment.
Well, no, we didn't have all the new equipment when we got back. First thing happened when we got back. At the interview, and I said, I want a free hand to modernise. And they said, we don't have a budget.
Oh, right. There you go.
Well, we don't have a budget. And I said, I realise there are ways around this. So I got back, and the place was full of the same junk, apart from a vocoder they bought for Peter's nephews. And that's when I coined the phrase fag ends and lollipops. Fag ends were the bits left over from other people's schemes. You know, somebody hadn't spent £1,000 at the end of their scheme, we could draw on that. And lollipops were things they used to stuff into Desmond's mouth to stop him whinging about not having any equipment. And Aubrey Singer arrived back, roughly about the same time. But first of all, I was telling you, first thing Desmond said, I want you to go to the engineering conference. Right. And I thought, it's strange, Desmond would ask me to do it rather than go himself. Well, I didn't realise he was at war with the engineering operations manager.
Oh, right, there you go. Internal politics.
It was because they'd foisted an engineer on Desmond that he didn't want.
Right.
And the engineer he did want was he'd be told he couldn't have.
Right.
So anyway, I go to this weekend conference at Evesham, all the senior engineers who are absolutely super and welcoming. Found out that there was a warfare going on between the operations engineer and Desmond. Was told very firmly by the head of projects at the time and the chief accountant radio that radio was very short of money, and if there was any money available, it was not going to go to the Radiophonic Workshop.
Great.
Anyway, that all went through. Aubrey Singer was then appointed managing director of radio when Dick Francis died. Aubrey came in having just got back from Japan, seen all the latest technology. And so I want radio completely re-equipped. I want all these crappy old tape recorders. We're still using the Philips tape recorders that we've been using since '64.
Right.
And it was by then it was 79, And so we benefited on those came in. Paddy managed to sell him the idea of a rock musical called Rococo. But it was pointed out that we couldn't do it because we didn't have a proper desk. We still had the OBA equipment. So then a disc miraculously appeared because Radio 1 had decided it was, they wanted the big desk, a 16-track desk. And then halfway through decided, no, they wanted a 24-track desk, so the 16-track Neve desk, which cost
beautiful.
amazing amounts of money. I mean,
They were the best desks in the world at that point, I think.
they were, yeah. But on the BBC, that was all they would do. So they would only buy Neve desks. So anyway, that came squeezed into room 13. Paddy did Rococo and then Hitchhikers and all of that stuff on it. I by then had been introduced to Aubrey Singer's assistant, who was going to become organizer of studio operations. And we seemed to hit it off. He came to the workshop, was impressed with what we were trying to do. I was moaning about there's no money, you know, and he said, do you mind if I bring Michael Checkland, who's director of resources television, over? So he brought Michael over, and I did my statutory whinge. And he said, I'd like you to prepare a document for me, the state of the workshop and how you see it going forward for the next 5 years, which I did. I still got a copy of it somewhere. And I asked for £100,000 a year. Know perfectly well I wouldn't get it. And he gave me 60, providing that radio matched a similar figure. So yeah, we were doing 60% work for television, 40 for radio.
Right.
So radio sort of said, well, all right, in theory, we'll give you 40,000.
So there you go. Well done. That's how to negotiate. Yeah.
By then, of course, so there were polyphonic synthesizers. Yeah. And so we literally decided to start at one end and work through it. The final studio, being Studio F, was the circular studio that Peter Howell designed.
Right.
The chief engineer of Yamaha said was the most sophisticated MIDI environment in Europe.
Wow.
And that really sort of chuffed me up no end about that. But by then, we've missed out all things like Ars Acoustica things where we've taken programs to there's so much we hadn't even talked about.
I know. Well, we can always do another episode if we can think about what we missed out, because this is all fascinating stuff. I mean, you know, this is a historical document. Have you ever had an autobiography out?
No, I did a memoir for, you know, White Files.
Right.
Ray White's website.
No, I don't know that.
Oh, you ought to.
Should I? Okay, let me write it down.
You need to know.
White Files.
White Files.
Okay.
Ray White was our engineer, the one that Desmond and the other guy were fighting over.
Oh, I see.
And he and I sort of planned the whole refurbishment of the workshop. And Ray was
okay.
Brilliant engineer. Tiresome to the point because he was very particular. You agreed this, and I'd say, yeah, but it doesn't work, you know. So the big sulk, and you know. But we've become great friends since.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Okay, so what I think we should do, because I've got to go in a minute, unfortunately. Okay. I always ask my guests these stupid questions at the end. Well, they're not stupid questions. They're kind of revealing questions at the end. So I ask everybody the same questions, basically. So, and they're kind of like, you know, kind of like a very kind of smash hits type things. So these aren't definitive answers. It's not an examination or anything. It's just to get an insight into your personality. So, if you could pick a favourite TV show, what would it be?
Now?
Any time, past, present.
I'm absolutely thoroughly enjoying Bridgerton at the moment.
Yeah, it's good actually, isn't it?
complete, utter, wonderful nonsense,
Yeah, that's right.
but superbly done.
Very well. Production values are great, aren't they?
Um, I don't
What
really.
about back in the day?
Oh, back in the day, I loved all those Out of the Unknowns.
Oh yeah, they were great, weren't they?
They were brilliant. And that's the Machine Swaps was one of those actually,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and Rainbirds. What else?
I loved that. Do you know, I'd completely forgotten about that program. I thought that.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go back. I bet they're online somewhere.
yeah, and a lot of the Horizons we did. And I think Liz did a beautiful job on The Living Planet.
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
That's a great thing.
There was just so many. I mean,
Yeah.
I always like to say, people say, do you still do any work? And I say, no, I did my 1,000 shows. I'm allowed off. Yeah,
You've done your time in the trenches. Yeah.
yeah, indeed. Trying to think if I think of any more.
Yeah, don't no. It's not like an encyclopedic list.
Yeah.
You know, it's just a daft.
Hitchhikers, of course, I absolutely adored.
Yes, that was just really well done, wasn't it? I just thought
I mean, combination of Paddy and Douglas.
just genius, really. I thought.
Yeah,
Um, what's your favourite film, or one of them?
one of my favourite films.
Have you ever done a film score?
I did Derek Jarman's Tempest.
Oh, fantastic!
Of course, Legend of Hell House.
Oh, of course. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yes, I apologise for my inept research.
Um,
But what's your favourite film?
I think probably Brief Encounter.
Oh, beautiful.
Although I really loved Tommy, and
Were you a big Ken Russell fan then?
oh yeah. I mean, when Ken started working for television, that's when limitations really kick in.
Right.
All his best work was that early television stuff because he didn't have any money.
Yeah, that's right.
It was, no, I loved all his early work. I loved Tommy and Belfast. And Henry Brandis, Henry VIII, Henry V.
Right. Right.
But Belfast is a wonder.
Yeah, it's really very good, isn't it? Yeah.
I cannot believe the performances in that.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, what's your favourite book, or one of them?
Probably The Prophet by Khalil Gibran.
Yes. Well, you know, we've all. If
With
any of the listeners haven't read that, I mean, it's not very big, but it's incredibly profound.
yeah,
Yeah.
especially on relationships and love and
Exactly. Exactly.
what other. At the moment, I'm reading quite a lot of biographies.
Me too.
Like Doc Cooper, which span the sort of between the First World War and the end of the Second World War.
Interesting.
And a lot of Evelyn Waugh I like.
Yeah.
Simon Raven I had a big sort of flirtation with.
Right.
In the fact that I read the books, I suddenly
Right.
was reading everything he wrote.
Okay, so that's good. What about other musicians? Favorite other musicians or composers?
An immense amount of Paddy and of Peter Howell.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Peter is just so good. And I still think there's even more to come. You know, Peter Maxwell Davis.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
And if I don't listen to a lot of pop music.
Me neither.
So, I mean, I was always a great fan of Beaman Herman and the Hermits, and that was my period. uh, uh,
What about your favourite classical composers?
I think Sibelius was my first thing,
Right.
and Tchaikovsky, because I really got into Tchaikovsky, uh, especially listening to his ballet.
Yeah. Oh yes.
And I just, I think I did a local sort of desert island disc thing, and the Kingdom of the Snow
Right.
in Nutcracker. And I would say, and if anyone wants to induce a child to ballet or theatre or classical music, take them to see that. They will be so amazed
Oh,
at the
absolutely.
magic of everything.
Absolutely.
But don't take them to see Swan Lake as their
No,
first.
no, no. Nutcracker is, the classic production at the Royal Ballet every year is
Yeah.
amazing. Amazing.
And also Nureyev did a very good one. And
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Do you have any I mean, forgive me. I'm no spring chicken, but at your age, do you have any unfulfilled ambitions?
yeah, I'd like to go to India.
Well, you should do it.
My mobility is not the easiest at the moment. I've got
Right.
plantar fasciitis, and I
Oh,
also,
I've had that. It's horrible.
yeah,
So
I've
painful.
also, I injured my back when we bought the house in Clapton, laying at patio,
No.
because Richard said to me, "We really got to get this yard sorted." And I said, "Well, I'll get Morris, who's a local builder." And I said, "Well, wait until I get a royalty check or something when we get Morris." No, I want it done this weekend.
Oh, right. Okay.
So he said, "I'll do it." And my dad's coming down from Yorkshire. We'll do it. Well, the two of them ended up in bed with ruined backs. I finished it, ended up with a ruined back.
Oh,
Had for years and years of problems. And I went to Delia's thing in the Coventry Cathedral, Radiophonic,
yeah.
last week, and was had because of the tube strike, had to get there by coach.
Right. That
And
doesn't help. No.
that did my back in. So I'm now having treatment from masseurs.
Oh,
Yeah. So if I can get over that, yeah, we'd love to go. I know, because the other thing is money, because I'd love to do that sort of the Maharaja's train that goes across the top.
oh, wouldn't that be great?
I just think that would be splendid.
Yeah.
I also always toyed with the idea of the Trans-Siberian Railway.
Yeah. I like the idea of it, but the reality is
Concept.
you're spending weeks just looking at flat, tundra, whatever it is. So I'm not really sure about that.
There are no plug holes on the train, and there's no toilet paper, and
That kind of thing.
fees.
Yeah.
I was, when I left the workshop, Richard was doing gaijin in Japan, and the idea was that I would leave the workshop, travel through Europe, and to Hong Kong. Then, because I have friends there, join up with him in Japan, and then we'd come back via Australia so I could see the family.
Nice.
Unfortunately, there was the earthquake in Kyoto,
Oh,
and the film was pulled on the first day of shoot because they couldn't get the materials to build the sets, and of course they were
right.
like the Imperial Japan and things. So he came back and was actually there on the day I left the workshop.
Oh, right. Okay. Okay. So, yes, I want to go to India as well. I've never been to India. And the final question
Yeah.
is, what's your favourite synth? I think I might know where it might be, but
I think I'd probably go for the Fairlight, because I think that was the turning point
yeah.
in where we were going, until that moment, I'd had hundreds of people come and say, I've got this wonderful thing, and people would come and it would be dreadful. But the day the synth arrived, the Fairlight arrived, this 15-year-old guy called Steve Payne, who looked 15, wheeled it in, and we were not prepared to be impressed. Once he started demonstrating, I called everybody else in. And that was at midday. And then suddenly it was 7:00, and they'd all really were still all around it. And, fine, yes, all the new computer synthesis, we can use Macs, we can do it at home, you can probably do it on your pocket calculator. But that was, I think, the turning point.
It was, really. I mean, we owned one of the early Fairlights as well. I mean, it could be a bugger as well, because it was not very good with high frequencies. So trying to do cymbals or anything like that, it just used to go when you were sampling things. But it led to an amazing change in music. I mean, we had an emulator too, which was much better quality, and the Fairlight ended up being a doorstop.
I mean, basically, I got told off because I sold our Fairlight to a studio in Paris for £7,000.
Right.
And then the problem was trying to get that back into the BBC. Budget.
Oh, right. Yeah. But they did actually change the way that music was created, which, looking back, it's like the moon landing now.
Yeah. But actually, I think probably FM synthesis, MIDI, and the Fairlight, they were the big changing points.
That's right.
Voltage control era, I regard as the boss and fart era.
Well, I still use my Roland System 100 on a weekly basis. I just think it's one of the best standards ever.
Yeah. It was super synthesizer.
Yeah, exactly.
All those lovely things. I developed very good relationships with people at Roland and Yamaha, and who were really great and terrific.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure if you wanted still to be sponsored by Roland, I mean, they kindly give me some equipment. I'm sure you could get anything you wanted out of them, because you're like the king of synthesis.
Oh, well, you give them my love.
I will.
Presumably the same people.
Yeah.
If the same people, they're probably all. And let's face it, I'm 84, so God knows how long most of them are.
But we all like toys, don't we?
Yes. Well, I miss. I had the first iMac, and the workshop had our first synthesizer was the 512. His first computer was the 512.
Yeah, we had that
because I could see. I just had a feeling this is where it was all going, and we had some of those very early music programs that took so long for the screen to refresh. Everyone would say, "Oh my God, we can't do this," but it was a bit like the Fairlight. When it first came, it was the bee's knees, and then you say, "Oh my God, it's taking so long to calculate that."
Yeah.
You take things for granted. And I'm now on my first M1 Mac.
Oh, good. Yes, I was just looking on the Mac site yesterday about the top spec new desktop model. If you put all the stuff in, like you max it out on everything, it's £21,000.
Shit.
But on that, you could probably render an entire movie, in super high definition in 10 seconds. Anyway, on that bombshell, I think we'll call this to an end. But I think we should do another session in the next couple of months.
And I'd love to talk to you about the installation in Liverpool, because I want to know your concept, how it was actually mounted and things. So I
Oh,
tried to get up there to see it and
yeah.
to hear it, but I wasn't able to.
Oh, it was an amazing thing. Yeah, it was an amazing thing. We'll discuss that next time because
Yeah,
it's
that'd be terrific.
yeah, it'd be fantastic. But thank you for your time. I really appreciate it.
Pleasure.
And this has been one of my favourite ever episodes, I have to say. And I'll let you know when it's coming out in the next few
All
weeks.
right. Yeah, I did warn you I witter on.
But it's all to good effect. Don't worry. It's great. All right,
Look,
man.
we've missed a lot. Bye.
I'll see you later. Bye.
Yeah, bye-bye.